Part 1. The Raid on Colony Haven. The twin sons of Haven 7 were setting over the wheat fields when the shadow fell across the colony. It was the night of the Harvest Festival, and the entire settlement had gathered in the central square. Children ran between the food stalls, their laughter mixing with music from the colony's small band. Families sat together on blankets, watching the older kids perform a traditional dance they had been practicing for weeks. Sat with his two children near the stage. Danny, his 10-year-old son, was explaining the rules of a card game to his younger sister Lily, who was 7. Watched them with the quiet pride of a father who had built a good life for his family. He had left the military 5 years ago, trading his pilot's seat for a tractor and a piece of land on this peaceful world. It was a simple life, but it was theirs. Nobody saw the ship until it was too late. The warship broke through the clouds like a knife through paper. It was massive, its dark hull blocking out the dying light of the suns. For a moment, everyone simply stared. Visitors were rare on Haven 7, but not unheard of. Perhaps it was a trading vessel that had lost its way. Then the first blast hit the communication tower, and the screaming began. Commander watched the chaos from his position on the bridge. He was pleased with how smoothly the operation was proceeding. The Dominion had ordered him to collect specimens from this human colony, and he intended to complete his mission quickly. His scientists wanted to study these strange creatures that had been spreading across the galaxy's outer rim. "Commander," his second officer reported, "the adult humans are organizing resistance. They have retrieved weapons from their homes." Clicked his mandibles in annoyance. He had expected the primitive creatures to simply flee or surrender. Instead, they were actually fighting back. Several of his landing troops had already been injured by human projectile weapons. "Change of plan," he ordered. "Target the education center. The young ones will be easier to capture, and they will serve our scientific purposes just as well." The order was carried out with brutal efficiency. While the adult colonists were distracted defending the main square, a squad of soldiers broke into the school building where many of the colony's children had fled for shelter. The teachers tried to resist, but they were quickly stunned by neural weapons. Danny had pulled Lily under one of the food stalls when the attack began. Their father had told them to hide and not move, no matter what happened. Had grabbed an old rifle from a nearby home and joined the other colonists in fighting back against the alien invaders. But the children were not at the main battle. They were at the school. "Stay here," Danny whispered to Lily, his voice shaking. "I'm going to see what's happening." He crawled to the edge of the stall and looked toward the school. What he saw made his blood run cold. Alien soldiers were dragging children out of the building and loading them onto a transport ship. He recognized his friends among the captives. Maria Santos, who sat next to him in class. The little twins, who were only 6 years old. Older kids, too, teenagers who were struggling against their captors but couldn't break free. "Danny!" a voice screamed. He turned to see Lily running toward the school. She had seen her best friend being taken and had left her hiding spot. "Lily, no!" Danny sprinted after her, but he was too late. A soldier spotted them both. Before Danny could react, something hit him in the chest and his entire body went numb. He fell to the ground, unable to move, and watched helplessly as another soldier grabbed Lily. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was his father running toward them, screaming their names, firing his rifle at the aliens. Then everything went dark. Did not stop fighting until the ship lifted off the ground. He shot at it with his useless rifle, screaming curses at the aliens who had taken his children. Other parents stood beside him, some crying, some silent with shock. 18 children had been taken. 18 families had been destroyed in a single night. The colony's backup communication system was activated within the hour. The message that went out to Earth and the other human worlds was simple. Aliens had attacked Haven 7 and kidnapped their children. Help was needed immediately. Aboard the research vessel, Commander reviewed his captives. 18 young humans, ranging in age from 6 to 14 standard years. They were currently sedated in the holding cells, but the scientists were eager to begin their examinations. The Dominion had been curious about humans for some time. Their rapid expansion across the stars was unusual for such a young species, and the High Council wanted to understand what made them tick. Transmitted his report to the Dominion, expecting praise for his successful mission. He had collected valuable specimens with minimal casualties to his own troops. The adult humans had fought harder than expected, but in the end, they had been unable to stop him. The response he received was not what he anticipated. "Commander," the communication officer said, her voice strange, "we are receiving a transmission from the collective. Ambassador Al is demanding to speak with you immediately. He says it is a matter of galactic importance." Was confused. There were a neutral species, traders and diplomats who stayed out of military affairs. What could they possibly want with him? He accepted the transmission. The face that appeared on his screen was that of an elder, his 4 eyes wide with what slowly recognized as fear. "Commander," Ambassador Al said, his voice trembling, "I have just received word of your attack on the human colony. Please tell me the reports are wrong. Please tell me you did not take their children." "I captured specimens for scientific study," replied, annoyed by the ambassador's tone. "It is well within our rights under Dominion law." "You captured human children." Al's voice was barely a whisper. "Are you completely insane? Do you have any idea what you have done?" Straightened in his chair, "I have completed my mission successfully. The humans are a minor species with limited military capability. They pose no threat to the Dominion." The ambassador was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with something that sounded almost like pity. "Commander, I have studied humans for 30 years. I have traded with them, negotiated with them, observed them. They are not what they appear to be. They are small and fragile and short-lived, yes, but they have one quality that makes them the most dangerous species in this galaxy." "And what is that?" asked his patience wearing thin. "They protect their young," Al said. "Not the way other species do, not with reason or calculation. They protect their children with a fury that knows no limits. You have not captured specimens, Commander. You have triggered something that cannot be stopped." Ended the transmission, dismissing the ambassador's words as the ramblings of a coward. He had faced many enemies in his career. The humans would be no different. He was very, very wrong. Part 2. The Ambassador's Warning. Ambassador Al had not slept in 2 days. Since learning of the attack on the human colony, he had been working without rest, sending messages to every diplomatic contact he had. The situation was worse than anyone in the Dominion understood, and if he could not make them see the truth, billions of lives would be lost. He called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 12 different species gathered in the Great Hall on the neutral station of Nexus Prime. They had sent Grand Admiral, a decorated military commander who clearly viewed this meeting as a waste of his time. Other delegates watched with curiosity, unsure why the usually calm ambassador had called such an urgent gathering. Al stood before them, his 4 eyes scanning the room. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. I have called this meeting because the Dominion has made a terrible mistake, and if we do not act quickly, the consequences will be catastrophic for everyone in this region of space." Grand Admiral made a sound of dismissal. "We captured 18 specimens from a minor human colony. This is standard procedure for scientific research. The ambassador exaggerates the situation." "I wish I was exaggerating," Al replied, "but I know the humans. I have dealt with them for 3 decades. What you have done is not simply capture specimens. You have taken their children, and that changes everything." A murmur ran through the assembly. The delegate, a crystalline being named, leaned forward with interest. "I remember the humans. We had dealings with them long ago, unpleasant dealings." Tell us, Al said. Tell the council what happened when your people crossed the humans. Was quiet for a moment, her body pulsing with colors that indicated deep discomfort. 20 years ago, my people captured a human research team. They had entered our space without permission, and we took them to our military outpost for questioning. We believed them to be harmless scientists. We were wrong. What happened? Another delegate asked. They escaped. Within 6 months, they had taken control of the entire outpost, freed themselves, and sent a message to their paused. We expected negotiation, perhaps demands for payment or territory. Instead, we received a fleet. How large a fleet? Asked, his tone still dismissive. Large enough to surround our home system, large enough to block out the stars. Colors shifted to a dark purple, the shade of fear. They did not negotiate. They did not make demands. They simply told us that any world that had harmed their people would burn until every human was returned. We surrendered in hours. It took us decades to repair the damage from their warning shots alone. Shifted in his seat but said nothing. Al gestured to another delegate, a towering creature from the swarm. Your people have observed humans for generations. What have you learned? His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of nervousness. The humans are a paradox. Their individual members are weak compared to most species. They are soft, easily injured, and their natural is short. They should be prey, not predators, but they are not prey. Explain, demanded. They form bonds, said. Not like other species who form bonds for practical reasons. Humans form bonds that override their sense of self-preservation. They will die for each other. They will kill for each other. And when those bonds involve their young ones, their children, they become something else entirely. Something that does not stop. Something that does not forgive. Something that does not forget. The elder, an ancient being who rarely spoke at council meetings, suddenly stirred. His voice was like wind through dead leaves. We have records of humanity dating back to their earliest space voyages. In that time, they have fought 17 major wars against other species. Do you know what started 12 of those wars? No one answered. Harm to their children, the elder said. Not territory, not resources, not political disputes. Someone hurt their young, and humanity responded with fire and fury. In each case, the aggressor species was either completely destroyed or reduced to a fraction of their former power. Humanity does not wage war for conquest. They wage war for revenge, and they are very, very good at it. Stood up, his scales rippling with agitation. You are all cowards. The humans are a minor species. Their fleet is small compared to ours. Their technology is no better than our own. We can defeat them if they dare to challenge the Dominion. Al shook his head slowly. You still do not understand, Admiral. Numbers mean nothing to humans when their children are at stake. They will throw themselves against your defenses until they break through. They will sacrifice 1,000 ships to save one child. They will burn their own worlds if it means hurting you. There is no logical calculation in their response. There is only rage. Then what do you suggest? Asked, his voice mocking. That we simply return the specimens and apologize. Yes, Al said. That is exactly what I suggest. Return the children immediately, before the human fleet arrives. Offer compensation to the families. Punish those responsible for the raid. Do whatever it takes to show humanity that this was a mistake that will never be repeated. Laughed. The Dominion does not bow to lesser species. We will not be intimidated by threats from primitives. Then you will die, the elder said simply. All of you, every in the galaxy. You will burn, your colonies will be destroyed. Your species will become a cautionary tale that other races tell their children. This is not a prediction. This is a certainty. The room fell silent, even seemed shaken by the elder's words. Spoke one final time. Admiral, the human fleet is already being assembled. Our intelligence suggests it will be the largest military force humanity has ever gathered. They are not coming to negotiate. They are coming to take back their children, and they will destroy anything that stands in their way. You have perhaps 72 hours before they arrive in space. Use that time wisely." He left the council chamber, knowing that he had done everything he could. Whether they would listen was beyond his control now. In his private quarters, Al composed a message to his own government. "Begin evacuation of all citizens from territory immediately. Do not delay. Do not question the order. The storm is coming, and we must be far away when it arrives." He then sent a second message, this one to a human contact he had known for many years. Her name was Santos, and she was now an admiral in the human fleet. The message was simple: "The children are alive. I am trying to help. Please, when this is over, remember that not all aliens stood against you." He did not know if it would make any difference, but he had to try. The countdown had begun. 72 hours until the human fleet arrived. 72 hours until the galaxy learned what happened when you took humanity's children. Al looked out at the stars and wondered how many of them would still be shining when this was over. Part 3: The Hunt begins. The message from Haven 7 reached Earth at 3 in the morning local time at the United Defense Headquarters. Within 20 minutes, every senior military officer on the planet had been woken from their sleep. Within an hour, the president of the United Earth Council was addressing an emergency session of the world government. Within 2 hours, the decision had been made. Admiral Santos stood in the command center of the orbital station Sentinel, watching data streams flow across dozens of screens. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, and she had spent 40 years in the human fleet. She had seen combat against pirates, rebels, and hostile alien species, but she had never seen anything like what was happening now. "Report," she said to her aide. "Ma'am, we have confirmation from 14 sector commands. All available vessels are being mobilized. Current count is 12 carrier groups, 47 destroyer squadrons, and 200 support ships. Additional civilian vessels are requesting permission to join the fleet." "Civilian vessels?" "Yes, ma'am. Medical ships, transport vessels, even private yachts. People want to help. The news feeds are calling it the largest volunteer mobilization in human history." Santos nodded slowly. She understood. 18 children had been taken. 18 families had been torn apart. To humanity, those numbers were not statistics. They were sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors. Every human who heard the news felt the same cold fury in their chest. Every human wanted to do something. "Allow the medical and support vessels to join the fleet train," she ordered. "Turn away the others, but thank them for their courage. We need professionals for this mission." "Understood, ma'am. Also, we have a request from he's the father of 2 of the captured children, former military pilot. He wants to join the mission." Santos was quiet for a moment. She knew the regulations. Emotionally compromised personnel were supposed to be kept away from combat operations. But she also knew something else. She knew what a parent would do for their child. She knew that would find a way to be part of this mission whether she approved it or not. "Put him on my command ship," she said. "Assign him to the rescue team. If we get those children back, I want their father to be the first face they see." Meanwhile, on the research station orbiting a distant moon, the 18 human children were waking up. Danny opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt and his body felt strange, like he had been asleep for a very long time. He was lying on a hard surface in a small room with gray walls. A faint humming sound filled the air. He sat up and looked around. His sister Lily was lying next to him, still unconscious. Other children were scattered around the room, some starting to wake up, others still asleep. He recognized all of them from the colony. "Lily," he whispered, shaking his sister gently. "Lily, wake up." She opened her eyes and immediately started to cry. "Danny, where are we? Where's Daddy?" "I don't know," Danny said, putting his arm around her. "But I need you to be brave, okay? Can you do that for me?" Lily nodded, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. The other children were waking up now, and panic was spreading through the room. The younger ones were crying, calling for their parents. The older ones were trying to find a way out, banging on the walls and the door. But there was no escape. The room was sealed tight. Danny stood up and raised his voice. "Everyone, listen to me." The noise died down. All eyes turned to him. "I know you're scared," Danny said. "I'm scared too, but we need to stay calm. We need to think." "Think about what?" An older girl named Sophie asked. "We're prisoners. Those aliens are going to do experiments on us or something." "Maybe," Danny admitted. "But that doesn't mean we give up. My dad used to tell me stories about humans, about what we do when we're in trouble. He said that no matter how bad things get, humans never stop fighting. And he said something else too." "What?" a small boy named Tommy asked. "He said that if anyone ever took me away, he would come for me. No matter how far, no matter how long, he would never stop looking until he found me." Danny looked around at the frightened faces of his fellow captives. "Our parents are coming. I know they are. We just have to stay strong until they get here." The door suddenly slid open, and two guards entered. They were tall, insect-like creatures with hard shells and many eyes. One of them pointed at Danny and spoke in a harsh, clicking language. Then it gestured for him to come forward. Danny's heart was pounding, but he stood his ground. "I'm not going anywhere without my sister." The guard made an angry clicking sound and stepped toward him. But before it could grab him, something unexpected happened. All the other children moved to stand beside Danny, forming a wall of small bodies between him and the guards. "If you want him, you have to go through all of us," Sophie said, her voice shaking but determined. The guards hesitated. They had not expected this. They had been told that human children were weak and easily controlled. But these small creatures were looking at them with something that was not fear. It was defiance. After a long moment, the guards retreated, the door sliding shut behind them. Danny let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. "That was stupid," he said, "but thank you." Sophie smiled grimly. "We're all in this together, right? Besides, you're right. Our parents are coming, and when they get here, these aliens are going to be very, very sorry." On the bridge of the human flagship Constellation, Admiral Santos watched the fleet assemble. Ship after ship emerged from faster-than-light travel, taking up formation around her command vessel. It was the most beautiful and terrifying sight she had ever witnessed. An armada of righteousness, forged from grief and powered by love, stood at the observation window, his hands pressed against the glass. Somewhere out there, in the darkness between stars, his children were waiting for him. He had failed to protect them once. He would not fail again. "We're coming," he whispered. "Hold on, Danny, hold on, Lily, Daddy's coming." The fleet finished assembling and began to move as one. A wave of steel and fire, rolling across the galaxy toward space. 72 hours until arrival. 72 hours until the universe learned what humanity would do for its children. Admiral Santos gave the order that was broadcast to every ship in the fleet. "All hands, this is Admiral Santos. Our mission is simple. We are going to bring our children home. Anyone who tries to stop us will be destroyed. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. There will only be justice. Now let's go get our kids." A cheer rose from every vessel in the fleet, a sound of determination and rage that seemed to shake the very stars. The hunt had begun. Part 4, The Galaxy Takes Sides. The human fleet was still 2 days away from space when the galaxy began to move. Ambassador Al had sent his warnings to every species he could reach, and the response was immediate and overwhelming. Nobody wanted to be caught on the wrong side of what was coming. The collective was the first to act. A fleet of humanitarian ships, painted in the bright white colors of neutrality, departed from there and set course to shadow the human armada. They carried medical supplies, trauma counselors, and specialists trained to help children recover from captivity. The leader made a public statement. We do not take sides in military conflicts, but we will be there when the fighting is over to help heal the wounds that have been inflicted on innocent young ones. The Empire, still remembering their own encounter with human fury 20 years earlier, sent a formal message to the Dominion. It was not a threat exactly, it was advice. We recommend immediate compliance with any human demands. Resistance is not merely futile, it is extinction. We learned this lesson the hard way. Do not repeat our mistake. Even the isolationist swarm took action. They closed their borders to all shipping, refusing to allow any Dominion vessels to pass through their territory. When questioned about this unprecedented decision, the swarm mother's response was simple. We have no desire to be associated with those who harm children. They have chosen their path. We choose a different one. Grand Admiral watched these developments from his command center with growing unease. He had dismissed Ambassador Al's warnings as exaggeration, but the reactions of other species were impossible to ignore. Why were so many civilizations abandoning the Dominion? Why were ancient enemies suddenly finding common cause? What did they know about humans that he did not? His questions were answered when a transmission arrived from the Elders. They were the oldest known species in the galaxy, ancient beings who had watched the rise and fall of countless civilizations. They had not involved themselves in galactic politics for 300 years. Their silence had been so long that many younger species doubted they still existed. But now they spoke. To the rulers of the Dominion, the message began, delivered in a voice like wind through dead leaves. We have observed your recent actions with great concern. You have taken human children. This was unwise. We have studied humanity since their first steps into space. We have seen what they become when their young are threatened. Return the children immediately. There is no alternative scenario in which you survive this conflict. This is not a threat. This is a statement of fact. The humans are coming, and nothing in this galaxy can stop them. Stared at the message for a long time. They never spoke unless they were certain. They never warned unless the danger was absolute. For the first time since this crisis began, he felt something cold crawling up his spine. Fear. He summoned Commander to his chambers. Arrived looking confident, even proud. He still believed that his capture of human specimens had been a great achievement for the Dominion. He did not understand why the Grand Admiral had been acting so strangely. You wanted to see me, Admiral. Did not answer immediately. He stood by the window, looking out at the capital city spread below. Millions have lived in those towers and streets. Millions of lives that might soon be ended because of one commander's stupid decision. Tell me exactly what happened during the raid, said finally. Tell me about the children you took. Shrugged. They were easy targets. The adults were fighting back, but the young ones had no weapons. We simply collected them and brought them to the research station. They are being held there now, waiting for scientific examination. Have they been harmed? Not yet. The scientists wanted to observe them in their natural state before beginning any procedures. Turn to face him. You fool, you absolute fool. Do you understand what you have done? You have not captured specimens. You have captured the most precious thing in the entire human civilization. Their children, their future. And for that crime they are going to burn our worlds to ash. Looked confused. Admiral, I don't understand. The humans are a minor species. Their fleet is smaller than ours. Their technology is no better. How can they possibly threaten the Dominion? Because they will not stop, said. I have been reading the reports. I have been studying human history. Every species that has harmed human children has been destroyed, not defeated, not conquered, destroyed. The humans do not fight for territory or resources or power. They fight for each other. And when it comes to their young, they fight with a fury that cannot be measured or matched. He walked to his desk and picked up a data tablet, throwing it at, read this. It is a summary of the human response to our attack. They have assembled the largest fleet in their history, 12 carrier groups, hundreds of warships, thousands of support vessels, and they are not coming to negotiate. They are coming to kill us all. Read the report, his confidence slowly draining away. What do we do? We return the children, said. Immediately, before the human fleet arrives. We return them unharmed, along with formal apologies and offers of compensation, and we pray that it is enough to stop what is coming. But the scientists have been preparing for months. The High Council approved this mission. They will never agree to simply give back the specimens. Grabbed by the throat, lifting him off the ground with strength born of desperation. Then I will make them agree, because if those children are not returned safely, there will be no High Council, there will be no dominion, there will be nothing left but ashes and memories. Do you understand me? Nodded frantically and released him. You will go to the research station personally, ordered. You will bring the children to the rendezvous point I specify. You will treat them with care and respect, and if a single one of them has been harmed, I will hand you over to the humans myself and let them do whatever they wish with you. Fled the chamber, finally understanding the magnitude of his error. Turned back to the window. In the distance, he could see ships preparing for battle, weapons being loaded, soldiers being trained. All of it useless, all of it pointless. The military could not stop what was coming. Nothing could stop what was coming. The only hope was mercy. The only hope was that the humans would accept the return of their children and choose not to destroy everything they had built. It was a small hope, but it was all he had left. In the darkness between stars, the human fleet continued its advance. Admiral Santos received reports from her scouts. They were preparing defenses. They were organizing their military. They were doing all the things that rational species did when faced with invasion. None of it mattered. Santos looked at the tactical display showing the enemy positions and felt nothing but cold determination. She had of her own. She knew what she would do if someone took them. She knew what every human in this fleet would do. Admiral, her aide said, we're receiving a message from Ambassador Al. He says the may be willing to return the children. Santos nodded slowly. Good, but we continue our advance until every child is safely back in human hands. Not a moment before, not a step backward. Tell the ambassador that we appreciate his efforts, but this ends only one way, with our children home. The fleet pressed on, a wall of determination that nothing in the galaxy could turn aside. 48 hours remained. Part 5: The Return. The shuttle approached the human flagship under a white flag of truce. It was a small vessel, barely large enough to hold its precious cargo, but every weapon in the human fleet tracked its approach. One wrong move, one suspicious action, and it would be vaporized before the pilot could blink. Admiral Santos watched from the bridge of the Constellation, her hands gripping the railing until her knuckles turned white. Beside her, stood silent, his eyes fixed on the shuttle that carried his children. Ma'am, the communications officer reported, the shuttle is requesting permission to dock. They confirm they have all 18 children aboard. They also have Commander in custody, along with formal surrender documents from the High Council. Santos turned to, go to the landing bay, be there when the doors open. Did not need to be told twice. He was running before she finished speaking. The shuttle landed in the main bay with a soft hiss of pressure equalization. Hundreds of human soldiers surrounded it, weapons raised, faces hard with anger and hope. Medical teams stood ready with stretchers and equipment. Counselors waited to help the children process what they had experienced. The shuttle door opened slowly. Commander emerged first, his hands bound in front of him, escorted by 2 guards who looked almost as frightened as he did. He was pushed to his knees before the human soldiers, but nobody paid him any attention. All eyes were on the doorway behind him. One by one, the children appeared. Some walked on their own, looking around with wide eyes at the unfamiliar surroundings. Others were carried by medical staff who had boarded the shuttle the moment it landed. All of them were alive. All of them were unharmed. Danny was among the last to emerge, holding Lily's hand tightly. He had kept his promise. He had kept the other children calm during their captivity. He had made sure they ate, made sure they slept, made sure they never lost hope. He was only 10 years old, but he had been their leader in the darkness. Danny, Lily. The voice cut through the silence like a blade, pushed through the crowd, tears streaming down his face, arms open wide. Danny saw him and felt something break inside his chest, something that he had been holding together through sheer willpower for days. Daddy! The two children ran into their father's arms and fell to his knees, holding them both so tightly it seemed he would never let go. Around them, other reunions were happening. Parents who had traveled with the fleet were finding their children. Those whose families had stayed behind were calling home, letting their loved ones see that their children were safe. Admiral Santos watched the scene from the observation deck, allowing herself a rare moment of emotion. They had done it. They had brought them home. Her aide approached quietly. "Ma'am, the High Council is requesting communication. Grand Admiral wishes to discuss terms." Santos wiped her eyes and straightened her uniform. "Put him through." His face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and defeated, a far cry from the arrogant military commander who had dismissed warnings about human retaliation. "Admiral Santos," he said, "the children have been returned. We have provided commander to face your justice. We have included documents formally apologizing for this incident and offering substantial compensation to all affected families. The Dominion hopes that this will end the conflict between our peoples." Santos studied him for a long moment. "You kidnapped 18 human children from their homes. You took them from their families during a celebration. You held them captive for scientific experimentation. And you think an apology and some money will make that right." Lowered his head. "I know it cannot be made right. Nothing can undo what was done. But I am asking for mercy. Not for myself, not for Commander, but for the billions of innocent who had no part in this crime. Please, Admiral, do not punish all of my people for the actions of a few." Santos was silent for a long time. She thought about what she wanted to do. She thought about what would be justified. She thought about the fear in the eyes of those children as they emerged from the shuttle. Then she thought about something else. She thought about what kind of people humans wanted to be. "The Dominion will pay reparations to every affected family," she said finally. "The amounts will be determined by our government, and they will be generous. Commander and all personnel involved in the raid will be transferred to human custody to stand trial for their crimes. The government will issue a public apology that will be broadcast throughout the galaxy." "All of this will be done," said quickly. "I swear it." "And one more thing," Santos continued. "Your people will remember what happened here. You will teach your children and their children that humanity is not to be threatened, that our young are sacred to us, that there is no price too high, no distance too far, no enemy too strong to stop us from protecting them. You will remember this, Admiral, until the stars themselves grow cold." Nodded slowly. "We will remember." "Then we have an agreement. The fleet will withdraw. But understand this clearly. If anything like this ever happens again, there will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. There will only be fire. Do you understand?" "I understand." The transmission ended and Santos let out a long breath. It was over. The children were safe. They had been broken without a single shot being fired. Humanity had won through the simple, terrible power of united purpose. In the landing bay below, sat with his children, unable to stop touching them, making sure they were real. Danny was telling him about everything that had happened, about how the other kids had stood together, about how they had never given up hope. "I knew you would come," Danny said. "I told everyone. I said my dad would come for us no matter what." Hugged him. "I would have torn the galaxy apart to find you. Both of you. Always remember that. There is nothing in this universe more important to me than you." Lily looked up at her father with serious eyes. Daddy, the aliens were really scared when they found out we were humans. They kept saying that humans were dangerous. Why? Smiled through his tears. Because we are, sweetie. Not because we're strong or fast or have special powers. We're dangerous because we love each other, because we never leave anyone behind, because when someone hurts one of us, they hurt all of us. And that makes us the scariest thing in the whole galaxy. Ambassador Al received news of the resolution from his office on Nexus Prime. He felt relief wash over him like a wave. The humans had shown mercy. They had accepted the return of their children without demanding the destruction of the. It was more than most species would have done. It was more than they deserved. He composed his final report on the incident, knowing it would be studied by diplomats and historians for centuries to come. His conclusion was simple. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the most technologically advanced. They do not possess the greatest military force or the largest territory, but they possess something far more powerful than any of these things. They possess an absolute, unwavering commitment to protecting their young. Any species that threatens human children does not face an enemy. They face an extinction event waiting to happen. This is not a warning. This is a law of nature. The universe has many dangers, many mysteries, many terrors, but none of them compare to the fury of a human parent searching for their child. In the years that followed, the story of the Haven 7 incident spread throughout the galaxy. It became a legend, a cautionary tale, a reminder of what humanity truly was. Young aliens were taught never to threaten human children. Diplomatic protocols were updated to reflect the special status of human offspring. And every species that heard the story added one simple rule to their interactions with humanity. Whatever you do not touch their kids. Danny grew up to become a diplomat, dedicating his life to building bridges between species so that no child would ever have to experience what he had experienced. His sister Lily became a doctor, serving on frontier colonies throughout human space, and retired from all military involvement, content to spend his remaining years watching his play in the gardens of Haven 7, which had been rebuilt stronger and more beautiful than before. The Harvest Festival continued every year, a celebration of community and hope. And every year, humans looked up at the stars and remembered what they had done and what they would always do for their children. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity protected its own, and nothing in the universe could ever change that. The end.